I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025.
I move that we approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025.
Okay. Tony, can I get a second?
I'll second the motions.
Any corrections or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Before we bring up Elaine, I want to make a point that this week we have a lot on our list tonight. So if you have any comments while we're talking, if you would just wait to the end, and then we'll address it at that point. We can always circle back around and talk about it at that time. All right, so Elaine, did you want to give us an update on your
Yes,
music?
we are coming back again to ask to have outside vendors for non-hard liquor, beer and wine, at our 2 music nights this summer. I know that there's been concern expressed about it, but we still would like to proceed to put the recommendation before the board if the ordinance can be waived for those 2 evenings.
Okay, we had this discussion last month, so I'd like to go ahead and have a motion so we could further discuss it. So can I have a motion to approve a beer truck at the July 19th?
Are you doing a beer truck or
Beer and...
get rid of, or
What is it?
suspending the ordinance is what I think she's
Oh, is that what it is,
asking.
suspending the
Not the beer
ordinance?
truck, yes. She's asked to suspend the ordinance.
Okay, suspending the alcohol ordinance. All right.
Sorry.
No, good, thank you. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion, ma'am?
Sure, I'll make a motion to suspend the alcohol ordinance, but I need to know what the dates are.
July 19th.
Just, I thought you said.
Well, we have 2.
Well, we have 2, but we should do one at a
You
time.
want them separately,
But while I respect that, I would ask that we might consider them together, because the later that you push it, then you put us behind in trying to obtain the trucks.
I understand that, but I think we would like to see how it works.
We do one this month and one next
Yeah,
month.
one next month, and that, she said that'll put her behind the 8 ball, but,
Okay.
let's go ahead and do July 19th first. Okay, see where we go. Okay, so we have a motion, is there discussion?
We need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, did we get a second?
I will.
Okay, Cooper, second, now discussion. Well,
I'm sorry.
we're now in the discussion phase. And what I understand now, and the chief can elaborate, is that I was not aware that we needed more backup, more support when we have alcohol.
So if you do the beer truck, we have to by law do what they call a beer garden,
Okay.
which has to be roped off and manned by the police for IDs. We have to put wristbands on them. They won't be able to leave that area to go drink the alcohol. So that's your issue, I guess, with the beer truck versus if they're bringing their own and they're in that area.
Is there a minimum number of officers?
It'll take, well, we have to ID. We put them in the building last time, so we only needed 1 officer because there's only 1 door.
Right.
If we put a beer truck outside, we're gonna have to rope it, so we're gonna have to at least 1 officer, another officer checking the perimeter, then 2 officers for the vehicles and that kind of stuff. So you're talking 4 officers versus 2.
Okay. Something else that, and Elaine and I discussed this, I was not aware of, is that if we sign a contract and we guarantee a certain amount of money that they're gonna make, that if they don't meet that level, for some reason, then we have to make up the difference.
And I did learn that the vendors that we used for the fall festival did not have that.
Do not have
minimum, right. So they did not require to be a certain dollar limit.
Any other discussion?
Is there a third option, Chief, between either BYOB or have a beer truck? Is there another one that would require less officers?
No, I mean, so, like I said, the biggest thing with the beer truck is you have to make the beer garden, because the truck is the alcohol, right? So if we made the beer garden where they're sitting, like if they brought their own drinks, we could make the beer garden then where they're actually sitting in front of the stage. With the beer truck, it would have to be away from the stage, which then means we need to set up a second area. So that's why it's more officers versus the bring your own, where you're sitting right there. Two of us can watch that once we get the cars parked.
But if it's BYO, would you still have to waive the ordinance?
You still have to waive the ordinance, yes.
We just don't want to advertise.
Yeah, and that's why I said that, because you're talking about beer truck, she's talking about waiving the ordinance. Her question is waiving the ordinance for
Okay.
alcohol. The beer truck is really gonna be on them after that,
Okay, so,
so.
So waiving the ordinance would give the option to do either.
No.
If you waive the ordinance, they would have the option to do either.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess I would ask if we waive the ordinance with the stipulation that can we do that? Waive the ordinance with the stipulation of BYOB versus the beer truck?
Yeah, because I can tell you, I mean, it's going to be, you got to figure, we have several events coming up, so the
Right.
officers are going to be my hardest part.
Okay.
Having the manpower to do that while still, we got kids out of school patrolling, doing those type of things.
Okay.
So, and right now, we don't have our support service division put together. They're still going through training.
Okay.
So, fast forward, that's why I said, I know it puts her behind the eight ball, and I don't mean to do that, but if we vote on one and they come back next month, we can see where we're at with those other officers.
Okay.
That gives me 5 more officers that do nothing but events versus pulling patrolmen off the street
Okay.
to do a beer truck. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's where I'm at with that, from the police side of it anyway.
All right, so then we're going to, any other discussion on that?
No.
What I was going to suggest is, what if we do a friendly amendment to say that it would have to be the BYOB, the Parks Board be okay with that? Would they be acceptable to that?
I mean, we would not advertise that you could bring alcohol. I
Okay.
mean, I just don't think, unless you're gonna sell it, I don't think we can advertise it. I guess I would, to you guys for advisement, is if
All you can
If
do
Or not,
is,
is that something we want to advertise?
you could advertise bring your own refreshments.
Yeah, you could say refreshments welcome or something.
Okay.
Right, yeah, and then I go to Fisher's in Carmel and Greenwood, and they will say, you can bring your own like picnic, and food and drinks. And then sometimes if the alcohol is, no outside alcohol is allowed, then they will stipulate it. But if you don't say that, people can read into it what they want.
Right.
A lot of times if you say, no glass,
Right, no glass.
container, that kind of is like, ding, 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 okay, and then you can bring some as long as it's in a can
Right.
of plastic.
Right. Good point.
Okay, so all in favor of waiving the alcohol ordinance for July 19th
In lieu of bring your own refreshments.
in lieu of, I guess,
Yes.
of bringing your own.
Refreshments.
I would just say, we don't even need to say that, yeah, I don't think, if it's just the way the
If we waive
then
it,
they know how to advertise it, right?
Right.
But you're waiving it with the stipulation
That.
yes,
that
that,
it has to be
Be
bring
right
your
on.
own.
okay, let's word it that way. Okay, so
An
now,
outside vendor.
can I get a vote
Mrs.
on
Clerk
waiving the
Treasurer,
alcohol
did you get-
ordinance for July 19th with the stipulation that that would be a BYOB situation? So, all those in favor, say aye. Opposed? None? Okay. All right. We have Alyssa is up next, if she's ready, to talk about the Rico copier.
I have the couple things on your drive, I agree, I think, but if you look at one of the papers, two of them have sorry, let me get this number. Have our old copier on them, and you can see where it says parts are obsolete.
Absolutely.
It's in the,
Absolutely.
it's in the white.
Yes.
Ooh, that sounds perfect.
One of them we got in 2018, the one in the executive hallway we got in 2018. The one in the police department we got in 2012, and it's getting expensive on a monthly basis. So we met with Rico, and we would be leasing, which we have done. Both of these copiers that we have now, we have leased in the past, and it's like a lease, a rent-to-own kind of situation. So it's 60 a month. I got the wrong one. what is it, 90? I want to give you this 90,
The thingy says.
93.43 a month.
And that's for 2 copiers?
Well, no, that's per copy.
Right, that's.
Yeah, right,
I
okay.
didn't say it that way. so.
But if you can see how they charge us for the black and white and the color, if you compare what it is now to what it will be, it's significantly lower.
It is.
So in the end, I did the math, and it's cheaper to lease 2 new copiers.
Well, wow.
Yeah,
Than what we're paying right now.
yeah, because the parts are,
What would that average out with the average number of copies that we run? What would that average out for the year?
well, average monthly volume over 12 months right now on the one in the hallway, our hallway is 2,500, black and white. I don't think they did color, did they? Oh, yeah. Oh, they did do color on this one. Yeah, black and white, no, I'm sorry. Black and white's 1146, and it's on the paper, and then color's 2560. The one that's on the old copier, you see what I'm saying, Tony?
Yes.
Is that the number of copies we make per month? Okay.
Yeah, average monthly over 12 months. And then the police one is significantly lower, but we just obviously use ours a lot more.
So is the lease amount a set thing for each copier, and then you pay for each copy?
Right.
Man, I'm saying, do a lot of black and white, because they're 10 times
I
as cheap
know.
as the color.
Yeah.
You know, the color's 10
Right.
times as
Oh, yeah.
much.
And a lot of that is the newsletter, but the newsletter has its own budget line. They have $2,000, so anything that they do on that goes out of the newsletter. It's not a regular printing, so that's why we did that.
So do you have a ballpark figure about how much we could save by going to the new? I mean, you said it would be less, it would be significantly less.
I'm sorry, I didn't write those numbers down and bring them in here, but,
I mean, because the lease itself, you know, would be like less than $2,400 for the 2 of them
hang
for
on,
the year.
wait.
You know, so that's not much, but then the copies, I guess, it, you know, depends on how many, what color.
Use your thing.
Dang it, hang on a second.
Plus, if the machines blow up right now, it sounds like we can't get parts, so. we're kind of-
Right. I seem like
So we
people
don't-
want to go, I just, you know, I'm just thinking,
Just curious.
you know, sure.
So last year, Rico fees, we spent $4,500.
Okay.
That was, and so far this year, we've spent $1,730. So if I take times 2. 6 times 2.
Close to 3,500.
Yeah. Hang on, kids. Well, for 12 months, it would be 4,400. No, this will be just 5 months probably this year, but, yeah.
That's what we're
So
currently
It's a
paying.
little bit less. No, what we're currently paying last year was 4,500.
Gotcha, okay, so it would be similar, but you'd be paying slightly less and getting new machines. Yeah, okay, that's all I really wanted to know.
Yeah.
Is it with the vendor comparable before?
It's the
it
same
is?
vendor, Rico, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so can I get a motion then to approve the lease for both the 2 copiers, Rico copiers, executive hallway, and the police roll call room?
I'll make a motion to approve for the leasing of the copiers for the administrative hallway and the police training.
Police department. Okay, can I get a second? Cooper, second? Any further discussion for Lisa? Any questions?
Sounds like a good deal. Can I ask an interesting question? Would we be able to scan? Awesome.
Yeah, on both of them.
Good deal.
I told him I didn't want them to fit in, so.
What did they say?
He just laughed. Because how many times have we tried to scan them?
Yeah.
Look at him, he's going, you need an IT person.
No,
I'm going, he told you you can't until
I
it's set it up.
know, he's not gonna leave until I can.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Nice.
Opposed, none?
Thanks, guys.
Thank
You
you.
would take a look at the fund reports and see if there are any questions on that.
informational, and then the pauses for questions. Because Mr. Cooper usually has questions.
I don't this time.
You don't this time?
Could you put that in the minutes, please?
All right, then let's take a look at the claims recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve the claims recommendation at $12,177.06?
I'll make the motion to approve claims recommendations for $12,177.06.
Do I have a second? Second by,
Doesn't matter.
Cooper was ahead of you. Any discussion on that? Any questions? It's one of our least expensive claims recommendations of
Pretty low.
almost all time.
She said I had to be good for a month.
Yeah, well, compared to last month.
That's it?
You bought all the rules for the year.
That's pretty good for your best.
I'll give her 1 month a year.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Payroll distribution, can I get a motion to approve the payroll distribution in the amount of $29,238.53?
Make a motion to approve the payroll distribution in the amount of $29,238.53.
Motion made by Cooney, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Price. Okay, now police department, it's up to
I just
you.
need to find-
I'm sorry, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Are you ready?
let's do it so well.
So real quick, I'm gonna hit a couple quick things before we get to what you guys have to vote on. If you noticed, AES and tree service was on West Street today. They're replacing several of the telephone poles from the apartments north to Van Dyke, and then a couple on Van Dyke. So they're out right now trimming the trees away so they can change the lines and all that stuff. We did get a hold of the flag committee to let them know they're gonna mark the poles so we can get the flags and things down. The poles will probably start being replaced at the end of July, so it's about a month away. Just so you know that's coming though. Was that it on that?
You talk about removing trees, was she ever gonna get more of the,
So that's why I stopped today, because she had the supervisor standing there, and then, of course, when I stopped, she ran into the house. They came with a good solution for her. They worked with her. They are going to trim the trees up on the alley more. I said, well, if you really want to help her, that'd be something, because if you notice when you came in today, she's got the weeds growing by the road that mowed behind it. So I know code enforcement's working on that one already. So we'll deal with that. But just so you know, that's what they're doing out there. So hopefully we'll be done with that project by fall. The other issue, I'm sorry?
Do they need more power for the apartment building? Is that new lines for that? or-
No, he just said they were replacing, they do 5-year plans, those poles were ready to be replaced. I said they're not doing all of them on West Street, but they're doing the majority on Van Dyke, because they haven't been changed.
I just,
Yeah.
We had ours about 4 years ago, and they put 2 in my backyard. Changed them out, they put new wires, new high voltage wires, and new 55, and they're thicker, so that in storms, they don't, they don't wave back and forth, so they were pretty quick though, when they did ours.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to pull them out, put them in, it's just reinstalling part. He's gonna give me updates though, in case we're out of power, he'll let me know ahead of time, so I can send it to the board and you can get it out. So our other issue is on Church Street. It's called Jack's Alley. That's all I can tell you. There's an alley that runs east and west over to Walnut. Then there's another alley just east of Church that runs north and south. We're talking about the alley that runs north and south. For about 30 years, Tom Quinn has kept up the grass mowing on that, and he's also put gravel down before in that alley. New neighbors moved in about 3 years ago, almost. They discussed the easement, the right of way and all of that. They were fine with him cutting it until this year. So this year, they decided it was going to be an issue that the chief spent a week and a half dealing with for a 3-foot strip of grass that runs about 15 yards. We've came to an understanding. They're cutting from one end south, he's cutting from one end north, so that should have taken care of that. But since that issue has came up, Tom Quinn would like to donate gravel to be able to be poured down that alley. The alley is used, there's 4 houses right there, so the alley accesses either their backyards or their side yard. His wife Becky, she uses the alley. When the alley dead ends at the fence, that's where the garage used to be, so that's where she parks. So she's not obstructing anybody else from using the back of their property or any of that. So just to keep everything above board, I would like the board to approve Tom Quinn donating gravel and laying it on that alley. The one thing that we probably need to discuss later on is we have paved almost every alley. So,
Yeah, but this isn't a through alley.
yeah, but neither is this one or one of the other ones that we did either. I think we have 2 other ones that aren't through alleys that we did.
Okay.
And we didn't have that discussion tonight, I just really.
So if it's going to be putting down gravel, is it going to be putting down anything under the gravel to keep all the weeds and all that stuff going up?
He weeds and weed kills the alley now. He
So
weed
this
kills all that.
is the alleyways behind the house that's currently for sale, right?
No, there's no house there for sale, so. If you know where the mayor's house is, it's the one right behind the apartment building. There's an alley right behind those houses. And then you have houses on the other side that face Walnut. So it kind of goes in between, there's 2 houses from the apartment, there's an alley that runs east and west, and then right behind those houses is an alley that runs north and south. That's the alley we're talking about there.
Okay.
All right, so then we need a motion to approve Tom Quinn to donate gravel for the alley adjacent on, I guess, the alleyway adjacent to his home and in that alley off of Church Street.
I would so move.
Very clever.
Thank you.
Is he planning to put gravel down once a year, chief, or
He does it about every couple of years.
couple of years?
And I think it depends on how much the gravel, I mean, with only a couple cars using it, that gravel probably lasts 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
That's why I said we don't have to talk about the alley now, but I think that's something we need to address if we did every other alley that we have in the city.
Okay.
So,
We have a motion by Cooper, do I have a second? Okay, any other questions regarding this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay. Moving on.
okay, so, trying to find my paperwork. Okay, so next on the agenda is, everybody knows we do an ordinance meeting once a month. We're trying to clean up our ordinances. And we have in several places the same ordinance, it's working different, so we're just trying to clean them up. One of the issues that we've received a lot of complaints on, I know you guys had a lady come to the board, is no parking restrictions. It's 10-12-010, no parking. That whole ordinance is the same except for the one line on there that says you cannot park on the lawn except for the purposes of loading or unloading or washing a vehicle. A lot of the problems we're having is between the sidewalk and the street, they're parking on that grass, which then gets muddy, ruts it up, or they're just driving over the curb to park in their grass. So that is, number 18 on the back is the change that we made to the ordinance.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the no parking restrictions 10.12.010?
And make a motion to approve the no parking restrictions revision 10.12.010.
We have a motion from Cooney, do I have a second?
I'll do a second.
Oh, second by Price. Next.
The next one is
I
parking.
need to find a vote on it.
Oh,
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay.
I'll be done before the game starts, I promise. Okay, so the other ordinance we have is parking restrictions. That's 10.12.080. The part that we added in here, it's number 2. It It shall be illegal to park any standalone vehicle or trailer on any street or alley unless such person is loading or unloading cargo. And then 3 is it shall be illegal for any person to park a vehicle or a trailer that would obscure the view of traffic on oncoming or incoming vehicles. Partridge, we have a flatbed truck that sits right there. And then that's on Shakespeare. On Partridge, we have like a 30-foot trailer that's right there by Stony Cross. So when you make that turn, you can't make the turn if another car's coming. So those are some of the issues that we were having. So if we could get that approved, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, so if I can get a motion to approve the parking restrictions in city parking lots, 10.12.080.
I'll make a motion to approve the parking restrictions for 10.12.080, parking restrictions in city parking lots.
Okay, I have a motion from Price, do I have a second? Second by Cooper. Any further discussions or questions regarding that?
I did have one question, Chief, on,
You were in the meeting.
I know, I was in the meeting, but I guess I have questions. There was one word or 2 words, hyphenated words. What is a standalone vehicle in this context?
We're talking about.
In point 2, it shall be illegal to park any standalone vehicle. I know the trailer was the part that we needed to be in there, but for instance, if I've got my pickup truck, that would otherwise be legal anywhere else, would that be considered?
We were talking anything over the ton or half-ton truck. Remember, like the big box trucks that park like the one on South Street? Something like that, that would obstruct your view also.
Right, okay, but I guess.
Or you would have to block more of the road, I guess. Because that was kind of the problem with the flatbed. You can actually see around it. The problem is it takes up so much of the road.
Yes.
You have to veer over onto oncoming traffic.
I guess I'm just thinking about if I got to show this ordinance to somebody who's violating it, is there a way we can specify so that they cannot argue with what a standalone vehicle
Well,
means?
yeah, standalone would be kind of like the trailers would be standalone, didn't have a motorized vehicle. If you had like a semi-truck that drove a trailer or something like that. So that's considered a vehicle, but it doesn't drive itself, I guess.
Right. I know what it is. We had about the size of it, and that's the only part that I'm still a little concerned about, is that if we don't specify that, somebody's gonna say, well, his truck parked there, why is that okay, but mine's
How
not?
long you been doing code enforcement?
I know.
I find reasons to argue about everything.
You're right. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that part we need to change. The only thing that changes is 3. 3 is what we added. So that part was already in the ordinance.
Or we added, or trailer to 2, remember?
Yeah, we did that.
We added or trailer, so, okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Can I answer your question?
Can I get a vote to approve the parking restrictions in city parking lots, 10.112.80? All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, next thing we have is Motorola Solutions, and that's for our body cameras. We had our last meeting, we discussed the issues that were happening. We use a hard drive, all that stuff. This is all stored on the cloud. Motorola is a 5-year contract. The total for that is $68,750. And what they do is they break that down yearly. Yearly cost is $12,780 a year, except for the first year where you have the $4,850 upfront cost. So the first year total was $17,630. We met with the clerk treasurer and the chief deputy clerk treasurer today. I gotta make sure I get that title right since it's recorded. And we looked at budgets. One of the things, if you look at our budget line for LECs, here's where our salvage titles go, reports, fingerprints, that kind of stuff. We have a budget line of about $71,000 right now. So we looked at a couple things. We have clothing and equipment repairs in other places that we can use. So we can cut that spending by about $4,000 a year right there. If you look at the salvage title money alone, she brought in $101,000 last year. So what we're trying to do is, in the next budget, we'll add Flock and Motorola if they get approved. so that they're automatically in the budget every year, which should still give us a savings of about $20,000 a year that we can roll over every year, put Trust Indiana, and be able to buy ballistic vest every 4 years. We'll have enough money for that. Right now, we currently have about $27,000 in Trust Indiana, which is our savings. So if you guys approve that, then the next month, we'll come back with an additional appropriation to get that ball rolling on the body camera. Yes, ma'am.
So are you looking just for approval to put them under contract in general, or are you also looking for approval for the $17,630 right now?
Just approval to put them under contract,
Yeah,
right?
that would be
Yeah.
council that will approve the 17,000.
Yeah.
So just
I just
under
need you
contract. So
give
can I
me
get a motion
permission
to approve Motorola Solutions body cameras and put them under contract for 5 years?
Make a motion to approve Motorola Solutions for a 5-year contract, as indicated in the proposal.
I have a motion from Cooney. Do I have a second?
I'll do a second on that.
Second from Price. Any further questions? All those in favor?
So you appropriate the money and then we'll approve it next month? is that
Yes,
what you're saying?
yeah, yeah,
The council will.
Okay.
yeah.
It's a long process to do an appropriation, and I don't have time before the council, it has to be advertised.
Okay.
Any other questions?
But the good thing is that if you pass it, we can go ahead and get the ball rolling on the cameras
Okay.
Got it.
and get all that going, because they wouldn't get paid till after that anyway. So
Okay.
as long as we get permissions from both the council and the board.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Okay, and the last thing I have for the police is, it's called Flock Safety. It's a camera system. Indianapolis currently has one at Stop 11 in Madison, Southport, Madison. Since we are not part of Flock, we do not have access to those cameras. So what we want to do is put 2 more cameras up on McFarland and McFarland and Southport and McFarland and Stop 11. That will give us at least 4 cameras surrounding the city. Flock is a really cool system. If we're looking for a plate number, we can log it. Anytime it hits a Flock camera, and there's tens of thousands of them in Indianapolis alone, it will alert to us where that car is. If we have a stolen car, every time a stolen car passes the camera, it'll alert the officer that the stolen car where it's at, so that we can track it and try to get that car recovered. We can also do it, we can put out, looking for any warrants. So if it runs the plate, it comes back with the driver has a warrant, it alerts the officer. So it's a really good tool to be able us to be more proactive than reactive, and maybe get some of these stolen cars that we have in Indianapolis or Marion County for, we just had a chase last night on a stolen car. So this one's a little different. It's not it's a contract. The initial cost for it is $7,300. That's the cameras, installation, getting the downloads and all that. And then after that, it is $6,000 a year to upkeep or to keep our access to the system.
So is it an actual contract then, a yearly, or every year we decide if we want to up their contract, their
Yeah, it's only 1 year for them, and then every year we can determine whether we want to keep it or not.
continue
It's
every
an
year?
annual recurring.
Yeah, and that, if we discontinue it, the cameras would still stay, we just wouldn't have access
We just
to
wouldn't
it.
have access to
Yeah,
it.
because we've already paid for those, so.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the Flock cameras, not necessarily to be put under contract, but to initiate
I would just say to approve this
$7,300.
I would make that motion.
Okay, all right.
Second.
Second by Cooney.
Listen.
Any other questions about that?
Is this one at McFarland and Southport? I can't remember.
Pardon me?
Where's the camera going to be?
They're going to be at McFarland and Southport and McFarland and Stop 11.
Okay.
We already have one at Madison, Stop 11 in Madison and Southport.
Then we
So
get access.
we'll have access to
Okay.
all of them in Indianapolis.
Great.
I don't really know how, we can look, because state police had a murder suspect that left Ohio, and they put it in Flock, and they followed it all the way to Martin Luther King in 65, and that's where they stopped it at.
Wow.
So it's a pretty good system, it does a lot of stuff.
Any other questions? All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none.
My friend Leader's back there, could ask him. Okay, Public Works, I'd like permission tonight to hire a part-time seasonal employee for the maintenance department. We have a 16-year-old young man whose name is Bryce Boudreau. And he was good, he will help our maintenance person, Bob Curl. I'm also going to the meeting tomorrow night for the parks to get their approval. But he would be able to help with all the maintenance in the park and the city, especially grass cutting, weed eating during the summertime.
Okay, so that would be, we're splitting it up. just
You're approving
discussing.
him to be part of Board of Public Works, hire him for Board of Public
We'll
Works.
do like 15 hours. Is that
So
right?
how it would work is he gets 25 hours a week, it's $12 an hour. The way that Bob is set up currently is 2 hours a day for 5 days. Parks pays for it, the remaining part, I think Alyssa looked it up, for the parks, it's like
It's
$1.80.
$1.80 an hour and $10.20 for public works.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we're paying
All right.
$12 an hour.
So can I get a motion to approve Bryce Boudreau for 15 hours a week, part-time work?
I'll make,
It's 25 hours a week.
25 hours a week.
25, not 15.
Yeah,
I thought it
25.
was 15 for us.
It is for
It
you.
is.
So she's doing, I see what she's doing.
I'm doing 15 for us,
Right.
Okay.
I'm just
And then-
thinking the whole,
in general.
and then we split it out.
That's fine too. Okay, then can I get a motion to approve Bryce Boudreau for 25 hours?
I'll make the motion to approve Bryce Boudreau.
And a second by, okay, let's get it together here. All right, any other questions about that?
Who was the second?
Chief, relay the little story, just as a quick little story, that when Bob came in our meeting,
Yeah.
and he said that there was a problem with the, was it the lawnmower or something, and he was gonna come back on his own time?
Yeah, he came
On
in.
Saturday?
Yeah, he came in on Saturday. The belt broke off the right lawnmower.
Yeah.
And one of the blades was bent, so he came in on Saturday on his time and.
He was
put
going
the
to come
belt
in,
on it.
or he came in, and then Bryce had already fixed it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the story, is that this young man had already come in and he'd already fixed it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was commendable.
I just need to vote on that.
Okay.
I need to get a vote on that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
okay.
Is there any other
I'm
discussion?
sorry.
We're still, yes.
No other
Don't
discussion?
rush it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
You still got an hour.
Don't jump in there, Melissa.
So, one thing, though, if you walk around like the back of the building and along the tracks, you could tell where all that brush was. Bryce was one of the ones that cut all that out. I think they took 4 loads to Green Tree Recycle or whatever it is. So, yeah, no, he's a good young man. Second thing I want to get on your radar is if you are at the community center on the back where that pergola is, there's a sidewalk that has sunk. In 2019, we painted the building, and you can see it's probably about 2 inches, I would say, 2.5
Easily,
inches.
2, 3, in areas, kind of like that.
Yeah, where the whole thing is sunk. One of the problems we think we have is where the gutters are, for whatever reason, just on that corner, they ran it into the ground. So we either had a pipe bust or.
There's one of them that looks crunched.
Yeah, so we know we have water under there, which is making that sink. So, a couple things, we kind of discussed in our meeting today, when we do the parking lot project, if we are under and we have some money to do that, utilize that money to get that fixed. Or we'll have to budget it for next year. Because with the sidewalk at a building, we can't use MVH, local roads or streets, or MVH restricted. So it has to come out of the general fund, which is pretty tight right now. I think we had $10,000 in operating supplies or something like that.
10,000 or 2, right?
Yeah, 10,000. And then we have repairs and maintenance, we have another 10,000. So 20,000
Right.
total, and that's to replace signs, get patch, that kind of, well, patch we take out local road and streets, signs and stuff. So we're gonna look, we're setting up a pre-con meeting for the park. He's trying to get it in the next couple weeks. So we can kind of look at those numbers and see if that's something we can do. But if not, when we hit budget time, it's something that we'll need to sit and look at. I know Alyssa's got a couple other ideas with rainy day and stuff like that, so, but that'll be a conversation when we do that, if we can't fix it
Okay.
then. But it does need to be fixed. And if the park is going to redo the pergola, We might wait on the platform part because we're gonna have to tear that out. So I don't want you to put a new pergola up and tear part of it down. So just trying to work together and communicate a little bit. We had to fix the sensor in the women's bathroom. They're like shutting off as soon as you close the door and it's dark in there because there's no windows. In the sheet I gave you guys a minute ago, we did our pre-bid for the 2025 Community Crossing Grant, which will start spring of 2026, which is what keeps me and Dorothy not on the same page. So these were the companies that bid. As you can tell, the prices went to 682 is the highest. Midwest Paving, which we have used in the past, and our engineers have worked with them also, didn't have any problems. They came in at the lowest bid of $487,569.69, and their recommendation is to give the bid to Midwest Paving. So if you guys are good with that, I'd like to have a vote to accept Midwest Paving's bid of $487,569.69.
So if I can get a motion to approve the bid from Midwest Paving, $487,569.69 for the 2025-01 paving project.
I will so move.
Second. First by, no, okay, all right. Any other questions about that? I was glad to see that we had more than we had for the.
Yeah, we had two show up to the pre-con meeting, we're all kind of sitting around going.
Yeah, I saw them outside, I thought, we're in trouble. Okay. No other questions on that? All right, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? All right.
Okay, next thing on the agenda for Public Works is, we are still under contract till June 30th for the 2024 Community Crossing project, which they have completed except for when you're at West and Warman. There's a couple manholes that are lower, so you get that bump. They're supposed to come out, put the concrete around it and that. The company that we used subcontracted that out to a smaller company, and evidently they're tied up in Bargersville. So they have till June 30th to get that done. So our walkthrough will be on hold until the whole work's completed. So I'm sorry to say 1st of July, we'll get a walkthrough set up and then start looking at the streets that we've already done. Last thing I have.
You're doing good.
Last thing I have is our community rentals are, we rent the community center from 4 to midnight on Friday nights, 8 to midnight on Saturdays and Sundays, or they can do an 8 to 3 or 4 to midnight, okay? We have one cleaning person. So she works during the week here and then goes in on the weekends to clean. If somebody rents it till midnight, she's in the park by herself at 1 o'clock in the morning and clean the bathrooms in the building. So what I'd like for you guys to think about this month, and Alyssa and I kind of talked about earlier today, we would like to look at something like an 8 a.m. to, did you say 8 or 10? You said 8, didn't you? Like 8 to 8? And instead of splitting it, you rent it on Saturday, you get it from 8 to 8. Last couple of years, we've looked at raising the rates since we put the floors and that kind of stuff in it. So kind of really look at those hours. One of the other things we have to look at is we have a sign posted out there that says the park's closed at dusk. When they rent the facility, they're out there playing in the park at 11 o'clock at night. Kind of violates our own ordinance, but we rented it to them, so it kind of puts the officer in a bad position too. But what we'd like to do is Friday, we could do like a 4 to 8 or 4 to 10. Saturdays and Sundays, maybe an 8 to 8 or something like that, and just have those as the rental times instead of having them broke up and all that stuff. I think that would help us out with our employees that are cleaning, or employee that is cleaning. And it also, she's not out at midnight or getting up at 6 in the morning to go clean it for the next day. So just something for you guys to think about. And then I know we do still want to look at the rates. And then make sure we do something for the residents too, where there's a little bit cheaper. We don't want to change that. We also looked at the CCD fund in the general for next year. We use that to remodel. This year we had to get the equipment in here and some other stuff. but looking at taking the fireplace out since it's leaking and it's gonna cost us more to fix than keep, and we can't use it, and opening that up a little bit, make the bathrooms from the inside instead of having to go outside and use the bathroom when you do it. So we got some plans there, but if you guys would at least look at the hours and the rates right now, and then we can talk about it again next month. And that's all I have. Unless anybody else got any questions.
Did you have anything? That's it for Public Works?
Mhm.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
No?
Okay.
You didn't sound like I did.
No, I just thought maybe one of the police.
I'm good. I'm good.
Wow,
He
really?
already did the police.
Wait a minute.
I did the police.
You're not going to talk about anything with the police department?
What are you gonna talk about?
Okay.
What are you gonna talk about? I didn't talk about
All
police.
right, we'll put that on the agenda. All right.
He did.
He kind of did, okay, all right.
What did I miss? What I missed?
Okay, anyone from the
Missed something.
audience at this point?
Is there anything else?
Anyone have any status?
Is there nothing on permit status?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Permit.
On your
Yeah,
permit
there's
status?
nothing new other than the homes that are being built and,
We did get a permit for Aniston, where they did it in the front yard.
yes.
We got that taken care of. It should be it done.
Yeah, I think
Thank you, Carol. Any questions?
Ladies first.
Thank you. First, on the Saturday, do you do very many splits where you're,
not many.
Okay.
People are all day.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's good. My next one is parking. I wasn't following everything you said, sorry, but, so like we talked before about, does it affect my neighbors that are just parking in their yard? It will affect
It will
them?
affect them, yes.
Man, that-
And this, it's kind of like if you look at the front of Dorothy's house and then Wampler's next to her to the west. He used to have gravel, decided to put grass.
Right.
So he can no longer park in the front of his house. So I mean, if they want to do something where they widened it and put gravel, they could do that. It's more for like the Buddy Lynch's and the Southfield Drive and, you know, a lot of that where we just got 3 or 4
Right.
cars parked in the driveways.
And theirs isn't, I mean, you know, they have the small driveway, but they have, you know, their kids living with them, so, you know.
Right. No, it will affect them, yes. To answer your question, yes.
Okay, then my other question is, and I wasn't maybe following this all the way either, when you approved the July 16th alcohol, did you just approve it for that date?
We just did July 9th. I thought it was 19th.
Okay, 19th, sorry.
We're going to revisit.
And why would you not just go ahead and approve it for the next one that they're having?
Because we would like to see how this one goes, and if it works out well, we'll go ahead and
What's the date on the other one?
August something.
Yeah, mid-August.
Okay. I mean, I just didn't understand why you just didn't go ahead and approve it, you approved it once. That would give her time to.
In the last meeting, we talked about that, and it was like what music we playing, what.
Right, exactly, right.
So I think that's kind of what we just wanted. The first one, we know there was alcohol there.
And do we know what kind of music?
Yes, Elaine?
Yeah, it's gonna be 80s, 90s. We've got 3 or 4 bands that we're choosing from, but they're all people who have known them.
Okay,
2 of the bands are from the Fall Festival,
okay.
and one is somebody else. Actually, it's the town fans.
Okay. I just didn't understand why you didn't just go ahead and approve it. Okay, now, my answer, sir. Answer.
Well, I'm just gonna be a briefer, give you a little history. I taught and helped special needs students for the last 20+ years, and on Shakespeare and on Marywood, we have some younger special needs students, such as those that are deaf and whatnot. And there's speeding cars going by, and I've talked to them, and I did the slow down motion and everything. But the parents are really concerned that, and they're my neighbors, not my neighbor, but my neighbors in the block, that they're very concerned that the kids are going to get hit one of these days or such. And so I'm asking this board just to look into slow children at play signs or slow handicapped children at play signs. If we could get one or two of those, that would be great.
I've also done some research too. As you notice, some areas, they have some flashing signs, slow down, especially like in construction zones too. There's something that you can look into. I've seen some places, I only seen one place where it's like $2,000. But I just wanted to, this
Are
is
you talking
something that,
about where we remove the speed limit signs and where it says your speed and stuff?
yeah,
Yeah, most of the ones that aren't gas powered are about 6,000. We've looked into grants for them before. One of the issues we have, like if you come down South Street in the middle of the night, it looks like a glowing road because of all the signs and that stuff. And unfortunately, the responsible drivers will see the flashing signs and slow down. But that's like if you look at construction workers killed every year with all those lights. So that's what we gotta look at, do you want more signage in your front yards or less signage or, that? Marta wants a duck crossing sign in front of her house. Just looking at that, I'm talking as a city as a whole.
Yeah.
What do we want it to look like, and that's, something that
and I agree with Joe. I understand what you're saying. I also agree with Joe because there are kids that have handicap, who are handicapped, and I've seen signs that, deaf and handicapped too as well. So, it's just something, you need to look
Is there,
into.
and I didn't hear the first part, I'm sorry, is there a certain area you guys are talking about?
Yeah, there's, okay, so like the corner of Marywood Courts and Marywood Drive. And then there is a house on
Right,
Partridge. It is when you go towards Bill Beck's house. I want to say Bill Beck's house, okay? That's all I remember
Yeah,
so far. So it's the second or third house on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And they have a wheelchair. It has a van with a, one of those wheelchair lifts is what they have.
And then there's one on Shakespeare with a little girl that's preschooler on a bicycle and she's dead.
And she's dead, okay.
Yeah.
I can look at cost of signs and stuff and bring it back to
That'd be very nice for your consideration.
That's how I can look at costs for signs and
Yeah.
kind of look at it and then get you guys an
Come
estimate.
later,
and You guys
next
can,
meeting or
you
something.
guys can review it.
And I would like to thank the board for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Susan Hancock, and I'm going to be I'm the newly appointed person for District 4. So, I did have just a couple questions though. When you were talking about the fast driving, one of the things that I've noticed that just drives me crazy, probably because I'm a school teacher, one of the fastest driving things through our
Buses?
neighborhood are the buses. And it just
Yes.
infuriates me. But that's another thing. So, and when you were talking about yards for events, does that affect the gatherings that happen on Saturday evening if people are parking in their yards, or is it just
Yes,
a temporary thing? Because I know we have a lot of Saturday night church services in homes that people are parking in their yards, and you're saying that now they're not going to be able to do that?
They would have to park on the street, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and another thing is they're not allowed to block the sidewalk because it is against state code. So,
Should be the next one.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's always one of the hard parts, and one of the things that we do in our meetings is we look at that, and it's like, we're not looking at one or two, it's like what's best for everybody, and I've tried for 13 years to make everybody happy, so I have like a 75-25 rule. If 75% of people like me, the other 25, you know what I mean? You kind of try and look at it that way, and you've been down Southfield. It looks like a car lot sometimes.
I'm Holybrook.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I had one other question. You voted for the event to have a Bring White Euro B on July the 19th. So how do people know that they can't do that other times?
So when we had the last music event,
There is signs, I just haven't ever noticed.
yeah, when we had the last event,
Okay,
we saw people walk up, look at the sign on coolers, and then turn around and go back to their cars.
oh, okay,
So that was one of the reasons why we brought it up this time.
okay.
I'm not saying.
But so there are signs posted,
There are
so
signs.
that's why I was just wondering about how will people know not to do that at other times if they can do it then.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Heather?
Yeah, I just would like to say that at last month's meeting, there were a ton of questions around having alcohol in the park that were related to what the event was actually going to be. And in tonight's meeting, there was no discussion, there was nothing about who the band was gonna be. There was a lot of concern about like, would it be geared more towards adults, would it be geared more towards children? In what you've answered here, it sounds like you had some discussion outside of the meeting. But to somebody who is not privy to those conversations, it sounds like last month you had a set of guidelines that you were using to make your decision, and then this month you didn't ask any of those questions. So it appears that those were not answered, so it seemed kind of odd. So I'm just saying, basically, I'd like to see you have more discussion around these things. And I'd like you to ask more questions when people come in with ideas like that, because, you know, me personally, I'd like to know, why does the Parks Board want to have alcohol there? Do they want to have alcohol there because it raises funds for the park, or it raises funds for the city? You know,
We had a little of that discussion last month. Where I said,
there
are
was a
we
little-
making any money off of this? Is
right,
it-
there was a little bit of that discussion last month, but none of it happened this month, and there was never even a mention of who's the band gonna be,
And no
what is the,
and no answers.
what are the target ages? And so while you guys all knew that, it sounds like from private discussions, it looks like to the public that you just abandoned all of those concerns.
And that is one of the hard parts, because, you know, like Dorothy is very good at working with the park president.
Right.
And, you know, so then we have meetings. So
And I know
a lot of
that-
times we know it, and then we get in the meeting and we're just like, oh, we already know this, we go on.
Right.
But it's the people who don't, so I get, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and you know, I was just interested in because the Parks Board meeting isn't until tomorrow, so I won't know that until tomorrow.
That's about the point.
Any other comments from the audience? Well, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? It is 7:57.
What did I say?
President, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.